Prosecutors are getting fired from the U.S. Attorney's Office left, right, and center. What does that mean for justice? What does that mean for the Comey case and others? Let's break that down. Hi, I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the Resident Legal Diva, and I'm here with Kelly Hyman, and we are part of Legal AF. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It's free so that you can stay up to date on all things law and politics. So we've had a bunch of recent firings that really put a lot of cases in danger and is also spilling over into the Comey case. So Kelly, let's talk about that. So what's happening with regards to the Comey case and how is this recent firing a problem? What do you think?
Well, in regards to the one in Miami, now, usually people that work for the U.S. Attorney's Office work through different presidents. So when someone becomes a U.S. attorney, they're there, whether it's, Bush, Obama, Trump, they are career prosecutors, and they have so much knowledge inside them from all the years of prosecuting the case. But it was recently reported in Miami Herald that a prosecutor who's about to try a high-profile alleged fraud case was recently fired, and that could have potential ramifications on this case that is supposed to go to trial really soon. Now, in regards to the Comey case, we have to remember that there was a U.S. attorney in Virginia, that's where the Comey case was, and that he was fired by Trump. And so now there is a new prosecutor from Florida that is handling the case against Comey. So a different prosecutor, that totally changes the trajectory of cases. Now, allegedly, the former U.S. attorney in Virginia did not want to bring the case against Comey or didn't believe that there has been sufficient evidence that was reported. However, now that has changed with the new U.S. attorney in Virginia.
Yeah, so much to your point. So this is the interim Eastern District of Virginia U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan, who, by the way, has little to no courtroom experience, couldn't try her way out of a paper bag, and is now heading up one of the biggest prosecutions, I would say, under this administration. Since you're going after a former FBI director, I would like to think that you would have your ducks in order. Well, apparently her ducks are not in order and they're quacking all over the place because now they ended up going in front of the judge, and there's now a whole drama because they have not turned over discovery. And they also want to go to trial in the next 3 months. So Kelly, talk to us about discovery and why this is problematic.
Well, Virginia is known, as they say, like the rocket docket. And so what that means is that once a case starts going, once someone is indicted, it takes off and the trial is very quickly. The trial date is set for January. And so when someone's a defendant, they want to know what evidence is going to be presented in the court during the trial that's going to help substantiate the prosecution's case, because the prosecution, the U.S. Attorney's Office, has the burden and they have to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. That is a very high burden. So Comey's attorney wants the evidence to see what is going to be presented, what exactly they need to do to prepare for his defense in this case.
Yeah. And also that same office ended up losing another senior prosecutor who was also removed. And this is someone by the name of Maggie Cleary. And so she had served as the interim U.S. attorney after the resignation of Eric Siebert, when he was like, listen, y'all not going to force me to file charges against, James Comey when we've got no evidence, right? So she served as interim, and then Lindsay Halligan was sworn in. And remember, Lindsay Halligan could be still personal attorney for the president. So now with the loss of somebody as high level as Maggie Cleary, I mean, again, clearly if she is serving as, at the level of being able to serve as an interim U.S. attorney, clearly she has like her world together, right? So when you're losing all of these senior prosecutors who know how to try cases, who know the judges and understand what they like, what they don't like, they understand the cadence that a case is supposed to take, they understand basic discovery rules. When you're losing all of those folks, that leaves a huge gap in terms of the experience. And also that's going to have a huge impact on justice, because if folks don't know what they're doing, cases may get dropped or people might get wrongfully convicted as a result of this type of, in my opinion, malfeasance. And then to go back to the whole issue in Miami. So U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi fired a prosecutor by the name of Will Rosenzweig, and he had posted some things that were critical of the president in his first administration. Now, keeping in mind, at the time that these posts were made, this prosecutor was not working for the DOJ. He was working at a private firm, and then subsequently ends up going to the DOJ under the Biden administration. But again, like to your point, Kelly, folks stay across, different presidents. I mean, I have friends now that have been in the U.S. Attorney's Office for 20, 25 years across all presidents, because to them, the mission is what matters. They don't care who's necessarily the president. It's about delivering justice in their particular jurisdiction. So now Will Rosenzweig gets fired. Not to mention, he is someone of the Jewish faith, and they fire him on Rosh Hashanah. Like, how rude can you get? But on top of that, you have two Medicare fraud defendants that were set to go to trial that basically the co-counsel in the prosecutor's office had to go to the judge and be like, hey, listen, I can't try this because I don't really know what's going on with the case. And if you don't give us a continuance, meaning if you don't reset the case further out, we're going to have to dismiss the indictment because nobody can move forward on this case, which then means there's the possibility of two alleged fraud defendants possibly getting away with it. I mean, Kelly, do you disagree with that assessment? How does that land on you?
There needs to be accountability for people's action. And to your point, when you talk about this case, now they are alleged defendants. You're innocent in the court of law until proven guilty. But the fact that someone getting fired could affect this case is a sad day for the justice system, because if you believe in the justice system, you believe that everyone is entitled to a fair trial and that a prosecutor brings a case because they reasonably believe that they can sustain a conviction, and not only sustain a conviction, but also sustain it on an appeal as well. So someone who initially brought this case went to the grand jury, sought the indictment, and proceeded with the trial. Some prosecutor believed that there was sufficient evidence to bring this case. And the fact that justice may not be served is disheartening, because no matter what people agree or disagree, most people will agree that no matter who you are, no one should be above the law.
Absolutely. And the other critical thing about this too is, there's basically a saying that when I was a prosecutor, whatever, like prosecutors aren't fungible, meaning like you can't just swap us out just like that, right? So when you are handling any case, but especially these high profile cases, that prosecutor is eating, sleeping, and breathing this case for months on end. So it's not like someone else can just grab the file and in a weekend be up to speed and be ready to try the case. We're talking about months of investigation. We're talking about understanding the quirks of each of the witnesses, knowing what pieces of evidence are the most compelling and or may be problematic that you may want to introduce or may not introduce or want to do so in a certain order. That's not something that you can just up and go just like that. So it's very problematic in terms of the fact that prosecutors aren't being allowed to do their jobs. And then, of course, for the justice system, that means defense attorneys can't adequately prepare their cases and do what they need to do because the prosecution doesn't know what they're doing because they have no experience, or the person is just new to the case and is going to take a longer runway for them to get it together and really be able to have an educated discussion about the case. So, this is a lot. Kelly, I'm giving you the last word.
It is a lot to digest with everything going on in the legal system, but I think it's important to remember that our legal system is not perfect, but you hope at the end of the day that justice is served and that people, in fact, are accountable for their actions.
Amen to that. Well, I'm Melba Pearson, also known as the resident legal diva. That's Kelly Hyman. She's over here. Yeah, that's Kelly Hyman. This was another breakdown. Make sure to sound off in the comments. Let us know your thoughts about what's going on in all of these firings and how you think that impacts justice. And thank you as always for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, stay safe, stay informed, and keep demanding justice. Take care.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.